Okay, let's talk about the VLOOKUP function and its superpower using the true parameter as the last argument in the VLOOKUP. What the heck am I talking about? Let's take a look with an example. So here's a common scenario. We have some tiers for the balance in your account, and based on the tier that your account lies in determines what your interest rate is. And obviously the more money you have, the easier it is to make more money because you get a higher interest rate. So the scenario is then we have a whole long list of accounts that we're working with in our data, and we need to know what the rate is that's applied and then calculate the interest. And it would be super tedious and not the right approach if we just went ahead and manually added the rate for each of these. Also, we don't need to write any kind of complex programs to do it for us. The humble VLOOKUP with its special true superpower will come to the rescue. So let's go ahead and see that in action. Now, the very first thing we need to do is actually set up a table that's going to work, because at the moment these are just text, you see, because I've got the spaces and I've got these dashes, and these aren't numbers that the VLOOKUP can parse yet, can traverse. So we need to just quickly replicate this table, and I'll just show you that in the format that we need for our VLOOKUP true. And let's just write in the bottom value of each of these tiers, the lower value of the tiers. So the first one obviously starts with 0, then we have 50, then we have 100, and then we had 250. There we go. And let's just center them just so we can see them. So there are the bottom end of each balance of each tier that we'll calculate our interest rates on. And so how the VLOOKUP works is, let's just now take a look at it again. So we'll search for the 79. We're going to look inside this table here, and let's just lock it with F4. We're going to return value 2, and let's just now talk about what we're going to do is write true in this last one here. And what this does is it takes the 79, and obviously we're not going to find 79, 891 in our table because that would be ridiculous to have every single one of these in a table. But it searches this first column, same as the normal VLOOKUP, and it says it's bigger than 0, so we move on. It's bigger than 50,000, so we move on. It's smaller than 100,000, so we drop back, and it pulls the data from the row that is the nearest match that's lower than the actual value. So the 100,000 is too big, so we drop back to this 50,000, and then it pulls out the 0.75% here for us. And you can see that if I now close off the parentheses and hit enter, then you can see that it's done that for us. It's returned the right value. So let's just try one more. The 296,000 is bigger than the 250, so it's given me 1.75 back. So that's great. Now, let's just talk about this true for a moment, because you might be used to working with zeros and ones, and you can just replace that true with a 1 if you want, if that's the preferred notation. You can also, there's even a more succinct way, which is just to omit this altogether, because the VLOOKUP defaults. So when I remove, you see that last one there has the brackets, it means this last argument is optional. And so if I remove it, then the default is the true one, which is the approximate matching. So we'll hit enter, and if I double click there, it sends it all the way to the bottom. So a few other things that we need to just talk about very quickly. It's imperative for this VLOOKUP true to work that the order here is ascending. So you need to start with the smallest all the way through to the largest, and if you have these out of order, you're going to get the wrong results for your VLOOKUP true. So these need to be in ascending order, and as I said, you put the bottom end of each range in, and then it's very simple. We can then calculate the interest. So we do the amount times the interest rate, hit enter, and then we can double click the corner there to send that one down. And how quick was that? So far quicker than doing that manually. Now let me show you one other example that you might find another scenario where this might be interesting, or useful rather. It might be something like this, where you've got some social media accounts with lists of followers, and you want to group them into categories because maybe you want to say, okay, we're going to focus on group 3, for example, for the moment. And it works exactly the same way as the one we just did. So let's first of all just create that table. I'll make a copy of it. I'll just take out those commas so they're not text. Reminder, these are the bottom end of the tiers, and then the last one was the 100,000. Okay, so now we're going to go and do our VLOOKUP true, and obviously the 2089 is not going to be found in here, but it will find the 2001. It's bigger, so it keeps going. It hits the 5001, and it's smaller than that, so it drops back 1, and it will return me group 2, because the following here, that's me, is in group 2. So let's take a look. VLOOKUP, we're going to search for that. We're going to go and search in our new little table, hit F4 to lock 2, and we'll write true. But if you remember, we don't have to write the true, so we can just skip that, close the brackets, and jump that down, drag that down, and there we go. It's classified all of those social media accounts. So very, very quickly, you could group these people into broader groups for your analysis. Okay, that's the VLOOKUP with its true superpower.